And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. What an exciting game one that we've had, and it has only just begun here in EU League. It's Playday number 6, July the 12th, 2021. And there is a second Playday this week, so again, a super week. This Thursday, make sure you're tuning in to watch more EU League action. Highly recommend you do, because we're all thinking, maybe Playday 7, Playday 8, we start to figure out who the top 4 are and how deep will we be going for EUL talent in the future. That said, welcome back to the desk. I'm Milosh. With me are Hap and Jess, and we're going to talk about these teams as they get ready for this match. Let's go with the rosters. Cowana is up first on the board, and let's chain the two, one after the other. I'm going to run through them very quickly. Jess, go ahead.
Well, they had a pretty good matchup last week, or last Playday, against Unknights, and as a result, they're coming into this nice, fresh, and a lot of momentum behind them. However, it was against one of the bottom-rated teams of Unknights, and as a result, I'm not sure I can put too much stock behind it, but after how Unknights performed today, who knows? That could be a different tale. It could show the strengths here for Cowana. You can see their best map is Oregon. That's the map that they dominated Unknights on. But if you look to the week before, Na'Vi dominated them. Then, of course, G2. And before that, well, they won a nice 7-1 against VP. So it's kind of like a roller coaster ride for Cowana.
Yeah, definitely so. And then the other side, we have Empire, a team that started off this stage questionable. 7-0 loss against BDS, then 8-7 against Trainhard. But after that, they were on the up and up. A 7-5 victory against Vitality, then a 7-3 Rogue, and a 7-5 against Secret. Now, that doesn't say 7-0, 7-2 in terms of wins. It wasn't super confident. However, those are wins, and that is what matters. They're on 9 points, 10 points even right now, and find themselves in the top 4. And that is a position they would really like to hold on to. Currently, now, if they manage to win this round, I believe they're getting 3 points loose, even more so from the rest that is chasing them. So today, very important game for Team Empire.
Our head-to-head, though. Let's see which 2 players you guys selected. One out of each one of these 2 teams. Who is it? It's always and Grizzly. What's the comparison here? Please help me out.
Oh, look, I had to highlight Grizzly because at the moment he holds the top dog spot, or the top bear spot, depends how you want to refer to him, in clutches out of all of the EU League. He's having moments, especially in the latter parts of the round, and most of this will come down to him playing flex support on the mute. And of course, I'm trying to pick the player that has the most clutches in the side of Team Empire, and always has had a pretty consistent stage, and as a result, he's also got a bit of a clutch behind him as well. He doesn't necessarily have the huge clutch factor Grizzly has, but that's our best comparison today, and that's why we picked both the cost, and of course, that's the impact that they'll have in each of those areas, and the clutch to compare. So I'm happy for Grizzly. We don't always get to talk about him, but he does have a sort of fierce side behind him when it comes down to those latter parts of the round.
Yeah, definitely so. And I think that the big discussion will be, though, between these 2 teams is where we're eventually going to be going. Because these teams do have different playstyles, and different maps suit different playstyles. So it's always going to be that little bit of a 50-50.
Different maps, you say?
Maps. Yeah, there's about 7 in the competitive map pool.
Let's see then which one we're going to be playing on in this best of 1 series with our overtime rules, as you saw in our previous matchup. There it is. We'll have a consulate again, this time Empire on the attacking side with Cowana on defense. Take it away.
Yeah. They've already managed to beat one of the I logos here last week, 7-5 against Team Secret. So, if that says anything, should be good.
Well, you're hoping that the I logo is the correlation to the win conditions
you
there.
You guys have been talking about correlation all day during the
pre-death. That's true.
Can we get some I emojis in chat, please? Thank you very much.
I wanted to make this joke during the pre-death. Correlation is no causation.
That's true.
Yeah.
I do like it. I do like it. Yeah. If we're talking about correlation, then I'm going to give a real simple one to the audience. 0% win rate. Wow, I can't even get
Rin is always on everybody's mind.
I know. Shout out to Rin from Down One Key. You will see you on Wednesday. But nevertheless, 0% that I have against Team Vitality, against Na'Vi. 2 fierce opponents, and they got close, however. So maybe this is the one. 3rd time lucky.
Our lobby's ready. Any closing thoughts?
It's going to be a good one, that's for sure.
It will be a banger.
It's going to be really close, or it's going to be Empire running away with it.
A test for both of these teams, of Empire and Cowana. Where do they fit? Can they both be in the top 4 or not? Are they top 4 material? That's what we're looking for in this game. Let's see if we can figure it out together. Jess, Hap, thank you so very much. Our game is ready, and we're going to go to Consulate for this one. So get your visas ready. We've got Des and Tiny Tim. I don't know. They're on the other side. Have fun.
Normal-sized Tim is what I'd have gone for. We'll go with Tiny Tim.
I've never heard that before.
All right then, Tim. We'll believe you on that one. Continent then we're going to for these two teams. And I know for Empire, they have been the big rollover team throughout most of the stage. But Cowana, Mr. Officer was on Twitter yesterday, put up a nice little video. Really enjoying his videos, by the way. Do check out his Twitter if you want to see more of those. But he was saying, look, we've been through a slump recently. Knights are going through the same sort of thing. They looked far improved today. And said, sometimes you've just got to, tough on through it and really pull yourself out the other side. And he believes Cowana have now solved that slump. And so coming into today, I believe you predicted Cowana for this one, right?
I have predicted Cowana.
Coming into it, it was a really hard game to call because I think if they're real to what they've said and they've figured it out, they've got themselves on the right path again, this could be a really intense game.
I think that you look at the last games and, Empire, yes, got a win, but it was, it wasn't, necessarily in perfect fashion. You've got Cowana, who did have a good result, 7-2 against Unnat. It's going to just give them a bit of momentum. And I think you get two teams here that are actually very, very close in their ability to win this one. So, yeah, I think it's a toss of a coin. For me, this is probably going to be one of the closest games of the night. I look at this in Na'Vi Vitality.
Yeah.
The G2 game's just shown us that there's always surprises out there. But yeah, I think this one will be close.
I think there's always players on both sides that can just storm their way through. I mean, looking back in historic weeks for Cowana, that consistently has been Grizzly and especially Gorgona or the Cyborgs I've taken to calling the real machine on this Cowana team. But they need more. They need something else to make themselves a top 4 team. And I think for both, they've been looking for that. The Echo ban coming out, and straight away Kendry's like, well, I feel attacked. Because rightly so, he has been the longer, even back on Na'Vi, was the go-to Echo player there as well. Cowana taking away the Mozzie as their last ban. It's been incredibly potent for a number of teams. Mute and Mozzie very deep in the meta right now. I love those last 2 bans.
I dare say that might be the first Mozzie ban that we've seen in Stage 2. I'll have a look at the stats as we roll through, and I'll pull that one up. But
I think it got banned last week. Or maybe in an APAC. I can't remember, but it was definitely banned last week.
I'm not sure if we've seen it banned inside VUL, but I will have a double check as the game progresses, and we'll have a look when we get a little bit of downtime maybe. But round 1, we are heading into this one. It's going to be Empire versus Cowana. It's going to be, interestingly, Des, remember back to our discussion at the beginning of the night, those map stats. 70% win rate for the defenders on press and lobby, and I suggested we might see it start to become a primary site for a few of these teams, and coming straight out of the gate, Cowana are going to take us to press and lobby.
Now, you know what they've been doing, mate? They've been sat there in the pre-show. They have watched it intensely, like Ace is dropping some knowledge bombs today. We need to listen to what the man's got to say. He's giving us the advantage, and apparently press and lobby is the answer. So that is where we're starting. Kendrew, going instead of no longer having the Echo on side, is going to play on the Clash. Something we saw employed on this map last week by Secret in their matchup. You had Packball playing that a lot in the basement, but something a little bit different here. We're going to see it brought along for this first floor site.
Kendrew and Grizzly up on the top floor, just getting those reinforcements in place. So we are going to see a presence inside a meeting, which is absolutely no surprise at all. It's exactly what we would expect. My interest comes with the rest of these defenders. When I spoke about this site earlier, we highlighted that a lot of the hold actually comes from the console and bathroom end of this top floor, and they're just trying to force the attackers to extend all the way across the top floor, wasting as much time as possible, but then also having to somehow lock down those yellow stairs and prevent the flanks coming back through, and it's something that teams haven't really been able to do as of yet.
One thing I do find funny is it was Joystick who was like, Joystick and Doki have been 2 of the players who in EUL have been like, Ash still good, still playing Ash, and now Dan's also back on the wagon as well. And the aggressiveness in this lineup already, the Zofia, the Ash, and the Iana all together, the 4 frags they've got on side, they've got loads to play with here in terms of explosive aggression. So for Cowana, it's going to be bracing yourself for that once Empire pull the kill trigger and go for broke. As it stands right now, taking themselves inside of admin. Very kind of typical thing coming out for Empire. Can't really think of too many times I've seen them assaulting into yellow. Their focus is often off towards the east instead. So knowing that, Cowana should have some kind of adaptation, and knowing that you've got the Clash on side, that is one such adaptation that can help you. You've got Kendrew here actually holding in towards Copy, because normally if you have something like a Hibana on side, which isn't currently present, you'd have them push through Copy, get this meeting wall open and start threatening the player that is sat inside of meeting. But as it stands, it's only Kendrew up here actually. I don't think there's another player currently holding inside of meeting. They've said, yeah, forget about that. We'll just drop down. Instead, they've got Grizzly playing on Spiral and Sloth playing inside a connector. A different hold, but enough that you're not conceding meeting over to the attackers.
Absolutely that. The thing is, whilst Sloth is active
active in connector, in console, in bathroom, anywhere around that side of the map. As long as he's active on that west side, you can't confidently take control of meeting. You got to go and kill him. You got to go and force him downstairs, because as soon as you start focusing on those vertical angles, he's just going to hit you on the flank. So you have to be aware of that, and Dan at present is. But they've got semi-control over meeting at the minute, possibly enough to risk putting the diffuser down. We'll see as the round goes on. But just very quickly, Des, as we head into this final minute, you were absolutely right. Mozzie was banned out on Oregon last week by Na'Vi.
Strict away that mute Mozzie setup that we're so used to seeing. And here comes the running, because I think Empire has sat here now for a minute just like, well, where do we go? Where do we push here? Because they're not peeking us. No one's getting aggressive, so we need to be the ones to make the move. And apparently it's the wrong move, as Joystick and Scyther both going down on front desk. Always not too long following as well. We'll get a kill onto Grizzly. So in that 4 versus 3 now, as we hit those final 40 seconds or so, this is where the clash is really going to come into our own here. Can really make Empire sweat or fry, depending, of course, how you wish to describe the clash's impact. Dan is in and going for this challenge, but again, that clash is just going to make you struggle. I believe that Sloth holding back in console as well, so if he tries to get too aggressive on it, he's going to find himself going down. Gorgona finding 1, finding 2. That's what you want to see for Cowana, this adaptation to the top floor hold, leaving Empire rattled. 10 seconds to play. They've got to do what they can to put Kenny down, but it's simply not going to happen. Dan going to sit here and be fried until that time hits 0. What a great defensive setup from Cowana, and Empire did not have an answer.
Great start for Cowana on the press and lobby site. As we suggested, it is defender favoured at the minute. It was 70% and it just went up. Cowana showing why that top floor is so important. It was interesting that Sloth was the first man to make that impact, as we said, not playing inside a meeting, but just holding back console, main desk, connector area, and just holding that and just waiting for that opportunity. You can't go in for the plant underneath whilst you've still got men active on the top floor looking to challenge. You have to be able to get a bit more control than Empire were able to.
You had Gorgona sat in lobby as well the whole time. Don't forget, was never really challenged or forced out of there. So that 2K, as Empire kind of said, well, we can't plant on the front door. We haven't got meeting control. Well, they probably could have tried it, because equally, Cowana weren't willing to step a man inside.
There wasn't anybody in there.
That's what I mean, yeah. No one was actually playing the vertical angles, but it was the constant worry of, what if someone does? You feel like you need that control. And I personally thought Dan being on the meeting windows would have been enough, but clearly they disagreed and thought they had to come instead via Visa, get themselves down the hallway and try and come in, but forgot completely about the fact that Gorgona may be on site. Downstairs we go then, Ace, and what are your stats telling us about this one? Should we be worried?
Well, we've had 12 plants and 2 retakes, so it tells us that it's been slightly more possible to get a retake.
But it has been played far more often.
It has been played.
Almost double. I did look at it and thought, wow, that's crazy. The basement has got 2 retakes and the others have only got 1. But then you look at how many times it's been played.
32 times we've seen the...
Almost double compared to the others,
32 times versus 23 for the others. But so we have seen teams getting that diffuser down, but it has been very possible for the defenders to fight back. Not every time, but to at least have an attempt going in there. So we're going to have some rear-sided pressure coming in from Dan, looking to get himself inside of Visa there possibly, and looking to support a push here that looks like Joystick might be getting himself into admin. So Empire are looking to take control of the entire map here, and they're quite right to do so, because they've got Sloth and Gorgona playing up on the top at the minute. They're just going to make challenges, and these are token challenges. They're not looking to take big gunfights here. They're just looking to slow down Empire and prevent them pushing in too quickly.
It's a classic for Empire, and Cowana are reading into that where, they will always start in admin and sweep their way across the top floor. If you can slow them down or inhibit them like they did in the previous round, then fantastic. You'll find yourself with a huge advantage as you burn towards those final 60 seconds. The problem is when you do try and contest them, they hit some nasty shots. They are a team that know what they want to get done, and they will gun you down if you stand in their way. That's a great opening kill onto Sloth, who had that big 2K from Connector in the previous round. Gorgona still holding tight. If he gets droned out here by Joystick, he's going to have to peel himself away. The drone's missed him. This could be an absolute freebie. Second time in a row. No way. Second time. Stands up, but Joystick wins it. Gorgona should be winning those, and he'll be scorning himself for that in just a few moments' time, I'm sure, because that should have been an absolute sitter race.
Joystick will not be able to believe his luck there. Out goes the Nitro. Does find Joystick, who only had a slither of health left, but he's not going to mind that whatsoever. Taking Gorgona off the top floor and giving Empire the map control they needed was extremely important there, and what a kill it was was, especially after that sort of sloppy drone work that had not picked up on Gorgona at the top of Spiral and gave him an opportunity. Gorgona will be kicking himself there. 4 versus 2 we find ourselves now, with Empire still looking to push. The breach isn't open yet. That's the one thing that's going against them. The mute jammer's still in place. We've got Kaid Electroclaws as well holding that garage door fast, but at this point in time, Empire are in a position where they could just rush site here, Des.
They could, but you leave it a bit one-dimensional then and risk getting yourself burnt, and rightly so. Kenny is watching out towards this yellow door. They're starting to get that vertical control that will restrict him and force him a little bit further away, but by the looks of it right now, they really want to get this door opened up. In fact, I say that as at the exact moment Shepard backs away and goes, okay, maybe this isn't going to be a thing here. Yellow is going to have to be the play.
Kendrew just relocating as those vertical holes start getting opened up. He knows it's going to pressure him. There comes in the first kill. Nice headshot onto Scyther. Garage door has been opened up. Shots down from above. That was always the problem, and it was always as he was using the sledge to open up and find the angles. Now Grizzly, he's going to deal with always. He finds his man and gets the kill. 1 versus 2, but they're going to have to make this plant. That's exactly what Shepard steps in to do. Couple of seconds left, and that will be confirmed, which it is. Now then, 2 versus 1. Grizzly half health. They know where he's coming from. He tries a pot shot through the soft wall. I tell you what, a couple of inches to the left, and he gets his man there, but not this time. And that's going to be Empire taking the round after a successful plant from Shepard.
I think those 2 earlier kills in the round really came back to sting Cowana a little bit, leaving yourself in the 4 versus 2. They did get the trade onto Joystick. Again, it all kind of transpired in the early round. That was the big difference for me there that led to that very advantageous situation, even when the clock was working against them. With those 2 sites completed, though, we're going to find ourselves going up to the 2nd floor console and meeting we step into next. No big changes or adaptations really coming out of Cowana yet, but you're seeing the Wamai and the Jaeger coming out in tandem. A selection that backed you on the utility meta. If you saw that on side, you were like, here we go. It's going to be a lot of flashes, a lot of concussions being burnt just to get through it. To me, maybe you see a yellow hold here. They're expecting Empire to do something a bit different.
Yeah, very possibly. As you say, if you've got all that utility to deal with throwables, you could certainly lock yourselves in. I'd be interested to see what's going on in bathroom. The floor's being opened up by Grizzly, but it's always interesting. There's the rotation that I was looking for. An R-kick just blowing the floor out, so not actually a full rotation. So still sort of on the fence here as to whether we see anybody playing at the top of yellow stairs. If the rotation into bathroom was opened up, then I'd think maybe, because you've got yourself an escape route. But given that it isn't, and the ADSs are being played inside of there, I don't think they'll be playing anybody too hard and fast on those yellow stairs.
It's really interesting. It's almost the sort of thing you would do, like you see it in Oregon, for example, in the attic stairway, looking down highway. You leave the lower level of the floor open, as a Maverick this is. You open it up so you have the long sight lines. If you play on the stairs all the way down through attic, through just a slither at floor level. It's almost as if they want to play on yellow itself and use that to contest into bathroom, assuming there'll be a repel coming in. Maybe that's the plan more for the later round, for a flank they're thinking of at this point, and have just said, look, forget about yellow. We know what it turns into. It turns into an absolute utility dump where frags are guaranteed to follow at some point, and we want nothing to do with that.
Dan getting himself up into that favoured location once again, just having a little look in through the meeting window from the balcony rappel, see if he can get any joy with an early kill. It certainly worked for Empire as a catalyst last time around, managing to get that opener onto Sloth, and I'm sure they'll be looking for a great start like it again. Now, lines of sight being opened up, shields being removed, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for Cowana to keep themselves just outside that bathroom area, and R-kick now just holding himself tight against that reinforced wall. It's just going to limit him somewhat, but Grizzly manages to get himself a kill onto Scyther. I'm not sure exactly where he's found that. It looks like it's come from underneath. I thought it might be a jump out, but he'd have had to move too quickly. Yeah. It wouldn't be possible for him to get down there through that hatch. So the door is open. I'm just not 100% sure. But one way or another, the only thing that matters is that Grizzly gets Scyther and puts him in the dirt.
And the second one comes out from Sloth just about a couple of seconds after we finished talking about the first kill onto Joystick, taking away the 2 frags from Scyther, and the concussions and the impacts coming out of the Sophia is going to sting a little bit for Empire. So they know that they're down in numbers. They know that clock's slowly starting to tick towards that final 60 seconds. Still have enough that they could look to burn through some utility here, but then it's about catching Kendrew, who's playing inside a meeting, and they've got 2 men trying to pressure him out.
Shepherd holding an angle from that soft wall that's been opened up now. Then that's a nice shot from Dan. Must have had some information. And a second. What a 2K onto Kendrew and Grizzly. And all of a sudden brings us back to a 3 versus 3 here with a minute to go. Empire, they need to get moving in terms of possession over this top floor. They don't really have a situation whereby they could safely get the diffuser down yet. I don't think they'd be happy to commit to that unless they absolutely have to. So another kill would be good. Always is working his way up the Visa stairs, looking to apply pressure towards Connector. Dan's got a nice crossfire for him into meeting. So that's the one they needed. Always onto Sloth, and he moves in aggressively, manages to get himself taken down. No, it's Shepherd who loses his life. Dan gets the kill onto an Arctic. Out comes the Nitro just underneath and somehow catches always was on super low health, I'll point out there. So Gorgona brings us to 1 versus 1, but now Dan able to think about getting that diffuser down. Gorgona's coming around. Dan had every opportunity, but no, he knew where the man was going to come from. Shuts him down as it comes through the single door, and that was back and forward, but Empire able to push it over the line at the very last.
Really big call from Dan at the end there as well. Rather than saying, no, I'm staying stationary, I'm planting, and then I'm going to take a fight, he chooses to come off and challenge where he thinks Gorgona is going to come from. I imagine what really happened there was the drones from Empire were in place. They fed the information. Okay, he's coming via Visa. He's running up the stairs. You got this. Easy 1-2 shot. Basically pre-fired onto the Visa stairs, and we saw how that one rounded out. A good start from Cowana. A 5 versus 3. Boiling down into a loss, something you'll look at, I think, and say, man, we really shouldn't be giving away rounds like that. But for Empire, it means they've got at least those 2 rounds on at the attack. And the Flores being 6th picked in here, late for Scyther.
Going to head back to press and lobby then. It's Covana's only successful site so far, which, as we already said, the numbers would tell us is to be expected, as the defenders have been doing very well on this site so far this year. And we saw the reason why firsthand again with Empire here. It's just the amount of work that is necessary to take over this entire top floor while still leaving yourself time and opportunity to get a plant down on site is considerable. And last time they were just unable to deal with Sloth out in Connector, and he was able to find himself a double kill at about the halfway mark, and that really opened the round up for Cowana. Now this time around, Kendrew, he's up there on the Valkyrie. He's going to be placing some black eye cameras, no doubt, also reinforcing. And again, this just comes down, Des, to trying to support that meeting player, that Connector player, reinforcing the soft wall above the stairs there, so they can't open the line of sight up without a hard breach. And again, it's just wasting utility to give them those lines of sight that they might need.
And you can see the change coming in for Empire too, dropping away the Thermite on Shepherd, which you played back in round 1. They know now what the site rotation is, and they've got the head banner in place, because like we mentioned back in round 1, you want to get that head banner ideally inside a copy and open up the meeting wall from afar. That's where sometimes you get the challenge of the defenders playing a shield at front desk, for example, and contesting down the long hallway, spraying the X-Kairos off the wall. So there are options for Cowana to defend that, but that should be what you see Empire go for, especially knowing how much they love starting in admin and pushing their way across. I'd be shocked if we don't see Shepherd getting inside a copy at some point.
I would agree with you now, Dan. He's just going to keep peeking at that angle into Connector. We saw him playing there last time, but he was unable to have any real impact on that top floor roam of Empire. Now, this is aggressive player. Joystick moving in on the Zofia very quickly there, but turns tail and just takes a second to get back on the drones. Kendrew just feeding all that information back into his team, though, and I don't think they're aware, Des. They can't be. Always is just functioning in there for fun at the minute, and absolutely no idea that black eye camera is up in the corner. The blue ring around it telling us that Kenny is sat on there just reading that information out. Gorgona with the Nitro. It's an absolute freebie, and that is why Valkyrie is so valuable.
Indeed. I mean, they had the ping coming outside. There was holding the window that looked down to the right side, but the flank comes in from lobby. Don't think they were expecting a C4 to come from that location. Thought someone instead may perhaps rotate down through meeting. But no, not to be the case. Or down, sorry, through Visa stairs outside of meeting, but not to be the case. And that's the entry kill. However, we've seen Cowana in a man lead a couple of times now. 5v3 in the previous round, don't forget. And they've still seen the round run away from them. I want to see them maintain control here. That's going to do them absolute wonders. Get one more and I'll be happy.
Gorgona's had a big round here so far. Shepherd does manage to find him and shut him down, but that's not really going to matter as he's taken 2 bodies along with him. They've still got Sloth on the top floor to deal with. Now, in comes the Rotero drone from Scyther, just looking to clear out utility. One of those uses that Jess pointed out in her piece looking at Flores a couple of play days ago. And they'll just keep sending those Rotero drones in there to clear as much utility as they feel they need.
Oh, here you go, sees the man for a second. This is where he got that godly little shot onto Grizzly in the previous round, but both now aware of each other will step away. No one quite keen to find themselves losing their life at this point in the round, but with 20 seconds to play, those lives are going to have to be lost very, very soon. 4 versus 3, 7 men on the field with 15 seconds, Ace.
It's all coming down to this, and without that top floor control, it's going to be extremely difficult. They've no choice but to just walk away from it at this point, Des. There's no more time. Out comes a Nitro. It will get both of them, and where did it come from? It came from the top floor, and that is why it is so difficult to attack this site. They got in there, Des. They started to get kills. They brought it back to 3 versus 3, but they still hadn't moved Sloth out of connector. He was in there the entire round.
I don't know, when you get to that point where there's 15 seconds left and there's 7 alive on the field, you know it's going to get a little bit chaotic in the dying seconds. And I think Empire made the right call. We haven't got the full vertical control. I know we've just dropped someone through there and somehow he's alive. And they wanted to rotate both off, or all 3, sorry, through into Piano and make the plant happen inside of there. But a wonderful floating C4 from above from Grizzly to get the 2K, brings things up to 2 apiece. All even after 4 rounds, Ace. Going into round 5, then we'll find ourselves stepping into... Is that the split site, Ron? I believe it is. So, this will be an interesting one.
It certainly will. We've got Pulse coming in for Kendrew. Grizzly just takes a little bit of damage as he starts to make those rotations. Oryx able to dash through soft walls, of course, but will take a hit point reduction for doing so. So he's just lost that a couple of times, but won't be the end of the world for him. It just gives an option rather than necessarily having to use the shotguns, having to use the impact nades. It just frees up time, allows those operators to be off doing other things, and also just allows you to keep some of that utility in the bank as well sometimes. Now, I'm interested to see where Kendrew plays this time out. We've got, as the Pulse, quite often you will see him located down in Archives. Given that it is the site that we're playing on, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. He's going to be able to feed an absolute ton of information into his team as to where the push is coming from, and the push is likely to be coming. Oh, he misses his chance, Kendrew. Looking through that nice little drone hole peek onto the outside there, and Dan might not know just how lucky he was.
Always comes down to the pixel points at some stage. Those close kills that you'll look back on in the dying moments of the round and think, just what if it had worked out a different way? One thing I did look at and was slightly, not so much concerned by, but interested by, is the fact that on the side of Cowana, there are only 2 C4s for this defense. Commonly, some teams will bring 3, 4. They'll stack up here just to say, right, they're playing below. We've got a Mirror holding downstairs. We've got the Pulse down there. There's the Valkyrie. There's the Mute. And we just throw C4s as soon as they start trying to make a plan happen. But on the side of Cowana, relying on just 2. Not saying it's a bad thing. It could prove to be enough, depending on Empire's attack, as they're trying to deny them elsewhere around the map. Just a little bit nervous that you scuff one of your guys dies in a weird shot coming out from Empire. Suddenly, you've got no vertical denial in the site. That is a wonderful shot onto an Arctic who was getting a little bit bold onto that double door.
How many times are we going to see these shots coming out of Empire tonight? That's the second already. Dan with an absolute beauty onto Grizzly earlier. Joystick getting involved now. There's the Claymore just taking Grizzly as he tries to get aggressive and put a little bit of pressure onto Empire on the outside of the map, but they're having absolutely none of it. It seems like the only site that Cowana might be able to successfully lock down here is going to be that press and lobby, because once again, Empire coming in and really taking command over round number 5.
I'm sure your stats will be absolutely ecstatic if
Can't
press
get
and
enough
lobby.
of it.
That just keeps on going to say, look, I've got to look at the stats. They're really important. Look at my spreadsheet. It's cool, isn't it? The sort of thing that Ace would say to me every single weekend. Let's see how things step up, though. Sloth trying to contest inside of admin. We spoke a few times this map already about how Empire love pushing inside of admin. So the right play sometimes can be to get up in their face and get a little bit aggressive. The more passive approach in previous rounds didn't work, and it's still not going to work here, even with a different tactic. 1 kill coming out. Kendrew, the last alive. Otherwise, it could turn out to be a flawless round for Empire, and one that they also sorely need if they take 3 attacking rounds in the half. Not a bad outcome at all. And Kendrew with that 1 C4 in pocket might make it work once, but can he do all 5?
That's it. He's not going to have much of a chance here, to be fair, because also there's a reasonable amount of time, nearly 30 seconds left for Empire to just get him surrounded here and start taking those fights, get gun There we go. I was just about to say get angles, get lines of sight, but always he had everything he needed. He'd moved downstairs, got aggressive, and finds the man at the bottom of the stairs. So Empire, they take the lead once again, 3-2. Cowana, they've not been in the lead since the very first round, which they won. They managed to tie level last time around at 2-2, but Empire cruising towards a 4-2 half here, you have to feel, because Cowana, they've not felt too close to shutting down any of these other defensive sides.
No, this one hopefully is the one they can pull back, because you'd hope for a 3-3. If Empire walk in at 4-2, they'll be feeling pretty confident. Sure, that Mozzy's been taken away from them, but I really doubt it's going to make Dan sweat all that much. I'm sure he'll happily jump onto another operator and go parading around Consulate looking for unwilling would-be victims. The defence down here, though, Sloth being on the Maestro, something a bit more defensive compared to what we're used to seeing him on. Normally, he'd be the go-to Jaeger player for the team. So much more defensive style here coming out of the whole team, because nothing on that lineup really screams to me that I'm off and roaming. If maybe you'd seen Kendra with a C4, you'd expect something out of the top floor. Because he's got the impacts, no. I think everyone who's playing on site, it's going to be a very passive turtle-based defence.
Well, we've got that hatch opened on the top floor, which might suggest otherwise, but we'll see where these final positions come in. Gorgona on the mute, likely to try and set up shop, possibly inside of the bathroom there, or he's at least going to prep it for being in there later on. Of course, the reason for the operators trying to hold this particular room is to try and allow them to apply pressure into piano, so it stops the attackers being able to just get themselves established inside of there and use those vertical angles that we saw Kendra fall foul of back in the last time that they defended this site.
And we know just how chaotic it can get around bathroom as well. Players try and push in, shotguns come to bear. 2 to 3 often end up dead in there, or grenades can come singing in, C4s can go flying over walls. You're right, it can be an absolute nightmare. And it's been a while since now I think about it that I've seen Maestro Evil Eye's been super effective in the kind of go-to execute point. Normally what a lot of teams seem to be doing these days is trying to go a little bit more aggressive, trying to push into the back towards cafeteria, for example, to make any Maestro who would be in there playing on those Evil Eyes denying a plant feel a little bit more uncomfortable. Equally, some teams have tried destroying them from above where they have existed and not quite succeeded in that endeavour all the time. So we'll see what impact they have late in the round as to whether or not Sloth gets a little bit leery and wants to get a little bit scrappy. That is another word for us, by the way, leery, to discuss at some point.
We've got Joystick just taking a few shots at a yellow ping through a soft wall there. Doesn't have any joy with it. Cowana at this point in time, a minute in, have still managed to maintain their full hit points across the board. Sloth just rotating through those cams, and again, there's so much information on the side of Cowana. It'd be remiss of us not to mention it, Des. We've got black eye cameras, we've got evil eye cameras, we've got a lot of information being fed back into these defenders, and we've seen how well they can use it already with the Gorgona Nitro only a couple of rounds ago. Now Utility starts to get dumped in here to try and get this garage wall open. It has been missed. Electrical is placed and that'll just be forgotten now, but there's going to be some work for Empire to do here if they want to get this open. Sider's going to move in on the Maverick. They do have that option, of course, just to burn the reinforcements off, but it is a dangerous game, as we've seen recently. He manages to actually get an angle through, and they find that electrical and take it out.
And I think it was coming from above as well, with a potential 2-floor spray down. Not quite sure. After the 2 frags failed, they had to go in and start committing the Maverick towards it. And I think it's still electrified here as well. They've tried quite a lot to get rid, but just can't quite seem to clear out the second one. There we go. Finally, it's been cleared out, and Joystick starts out the killing with a kill onto Kendrew.
A good start once again for Empire. 50 seconds left to go, so plenty of time if they can start getting that breach open. Shepard doesn't seem to be in too much of a rush at the minute. He's on the drones. He's just checking out what's going on inside of sight rather than opening that wall immediately. We've also got Joystick with him, who's going to try to apply some pressure from yellow stairs. Now Cowana have got a really deep defence here. We can see all 4 of them in a line across security room and cafeteria, just rotating between the two, just trying to hold long angles, and they'll have Utility ready to bring to bear. They've got the Nitro with Grizzly, which will be hopeful in preventing a plant going down. There is a Toxic Babe canister that's come out. There's 2 there, but both in the wrong place. And Shepard, he's able to continue getting the diffuser down. It is successfully activated. Meanwhile, Dan gets a kill onto an Arctic, and this is looking tough for Cowana.
This is textbook Empire. They did exactly the same against Secret last week in their attacks. Only this time round, Cowana were trying to be a little more aggressive on their defence. It was Patbull previously trying to play play up against Pipes, who was cleared out, and then it was all too easy for Empire, but they've walked in here and made this look a bit more simple, even with the smokes raining around and the longer angle. Sloth finding one to fight back, but there's a double cleanup coming out of Empire. They take round number 6 and complete the half at 4-2.
Empire looking pretty good so far on the attack, at least. It looks like we're going to have a little pause for a moment, as I would imagine that Cowana have called their tactical timeout so they can have a little discussion amongst themselves about just how they're going to change things up going on to the attack here. The thing is, they've been pretty solid in terms of their gunfights. We've had Gorgona winning quite a few. They've suffered a few nasty one-taps coming in from Joystick and Dan, but other than that, they've just been outplayed really more than anything.
The thing is, the first few defensive rounds, I love the setups they brought along. I mentioned about the upstairs hole where no one actually played inside a meeting, and I don't think we've seen that in forever. And instead, they had players around the perimeter challenging into meeting, but not actually playing there. And that sort of stuff was cool. It left Empire guessing. You saw how they stalled out, for example, but then they started to realise, well, playing kind of aggressive doesn't work. They still kill us. Playing more passive, as proven in round 6, just lets Empire play their game. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Unless you bring out a big surprise, they're just going to walk over you, and that's really how that half felt. And again, coming into today, I thought we might see something a bit different, that we had Mr. Officer saying, look, we figured it out, we're out the slump. I thought in the first few rounds that was really starting to show, but as it's worn on, Empire have got stronger and stronger. And now that we've switched sides, this is where we're going to have to see Cowana get really creative, and they're starting things out here with a Lion and a Ying on side.
We are moving into round number 7 then. It's going to be Garage and Cafeteria as the first defence for Empire. Cowana having all their success inside of press and lobby. Empire decide that the basement is the location for them to start things off here. Now then, both times Empire were successful when attacking onto this site, so you would imagine that they will sort of use that strength of knowledge of the site to try and hold things off here. They were successful in using piano both times, really. We had pressure from above that cleared electricals, and if you remember, there was the kill that came into Kendrew from above as well. So I feel for Empire, it's maybe a case of they know that they need to hold on to piano for as long as possible. So I'm interested to see just exactly how they go about that. You know, is it going to be aggressive play out in the map? We've got Dan up on the top floor at the minute. Joystick's just prepping the bathroom. But one way or another, they do need to hold on to piano, and I think that might just show us a difference when it comes to defending this site.
The lineup from Empire is almost identical to what we saw out of Cowana in round 6, and we saw how passively they played that one. On the side of Empire, it's almost the exact opposite. You had the Mute running around on top floor, you had Joystick doing Malusi things, throw down your Banshees and disappear into the nether, never to be seen again. You had Shepard playing on the Valkyrie, who I imagine was waiting to look for a potential top floor C4. We've seen a couple of them connect in the last couple of weeks, especially from the Russian teams. Admittedly, VP have played an awful lot of consulates, so you're bound to see one at some point. I really don't know if I like this spot or not, because as soon as someone knows you're there, you're just pincered in by a line of fire, and it's really hard to get out. Grizzly managed to pick up Scyther before Gorgona can be finished off.
That's a massive play from Grizzly there. Gorgona gets downed on the outside of the map. Grizzly now manages to collect him as well. So that is fantastic cover of his teammate. Grizzly, unfortunately, finding himself downed as well. We'll have to see if Gorgona can repay the favour or not. Out comes the Nitro. Will be unsuccessful. Joystick does manage to find an R-kick, but Dan, he's not going to leave this window for love nor money now, Des. He's going to just get himself locked in. He knows there's an opportunity, and we are just in a serious standoff here between Gorgona and Dan.
I really want to see him just throw himself out the window now and just go for it. You know a man's down, you know that he wants to get him up, so you know you're going to commit towards this, but the Candelas might just be enough there. Chasing him away at least for a split second, enough to get them back on the feet. So they've now raised each other once, both on 20 HP, a bullet's breath away from death. So we'll keep a close eye on those two as we move towards the later stages of the round, but it is still a 4 versus 4, at least for now.
Cowana just looking to progress themselves into Visa here to be able to apply some pressure from the rear side. Dan and the Maestro of always holding angles there. Now Dan's just going to dip away from that fight after he gets picked up on a drone, as is always, but Dan's made himself a swift rotation there up into admin, just uses his shotgun to open up some vertical angles to allow him to challenge on towards that Visa window should Cowana try to push in through there. Sloth just being held at bay on yellow door at the minute, needs to be very careful as Shepard's got a nasty little angle there through the window of the black car inside a garage. Will manage to find a little bit of a shot onto Sloth, but this little back and forth continues.
Honestly, I was going to say, you're waiting for one of these roamers around the map to come and join in this fight, and Joystick strikes with no cover for Sloth on the doorway, makes it all too easy. Always on the downstairs, finds one onto Grizzly, so suddenly the 4 versus 4 becomes a 4v1, as always doubles up his money and gets Kendra as well. 1 versus 4 for Gorgona, still with 2 Candelas, still with the smokes in the back pocket. I really doubt I'll even find a chance to make good use of these 4 and execute, given the predicament that he finds himself in. Diffuser's cold dead on the ground, Dan peeking around the corner. Should be an easy step out here for 1 bullet to come into him from Shepard. Gorgona will fall, and Empire make it 5-2.
Empire looking pretty good at the minute, and out of the 2, certainly the more likely to be taking this one. Cowana struggling to really get themselves into things. You feel like that first half when they were 2-2, it sort of felt like they had a little bit of a rough ride of it. They weren't really losing all the gunfights necessarily, but Joystick and Co were just outplaying them. But now it just feels like that landslide has begun, and everything's going against them at this point. You know, they can't win. Sloth just getting baited into that battle there. I mean, is it really one that you're going to win? Are you really going to beat the man behind Black Car just peeking in like that? And it just took so much of his focus that it was an easy step out for Joystick.
I mean, look at the difference to when Empire were attacking. It was Joystick and Scyther who were pushing down Yellow after they'd come in through Office and got that kind of benches area control. Whereas for Cowana, no one had control of that area. The fact that Joystick can just appear halfway up Yellow and get the free kill onto you on the door just goes to show how little map control Cowana had. And I remember back in, I think it was Playday 2, commenting on a number of their attacks when they were trying to plant inside a console, for example. I think it was against Vitality, actually. It was P4 with C4s coming in from below to stop them. And I was just like, there is never any perimeter control or vertical control of the rooms below. And they said, sure, look, you know, he evaded a drone, he got underneath us. And I thought to myself, that's great, but that sort of thing is still losing rounds for you. And that individual moment there, it's not a big deal. Okay, sure, it's Sloth solo on Yellow, but when there's no cover or support for you guys assaulting that angle, it's going to sting. Contrast that to Empire, who had 3 players pushing it at the same time. It's just a different ball game between the 2 teams at the moment.
Getting aggressive on these windows once again, Empire, and they will lose out for it this time as Sloth manages to find a good opener onto Joystick. And Joystick's been going pretty well so far today in sport of always, and Danny's not had a terrible game, but maybe not his peak either in terms of kills, but it's still going to be a big start for Cowana. It gives them a real boost coming into this one. Nice advantage. They desperately need an attacking round on the board nowadays. 1 more for Empire, and it's guaranteed overtime as a best case scenario.
I really hate highlighting individual players really and saying, you know, that's something that needs to change, but Kenny on 1 and 5 and an Arctic on 0 and 6, that's 1 and 11 between them. Neither really having the impact in the game that they need to be at this point. When you've got the frags inside for Kenny, you're hoping to find something, and sure, the odd wall might get opened up like it is by Anarchic here, but when Empire aren't worried about the threat that comes in from that spot, that means they can put their attention elsewhere, mainly towards the players like Gorgona and Grizzly, who've had good games so far, as has been the story of the stage. And Sloth, this game at least, is making himself visible, making himself heard. But again, you don't have this one big player like Dan on the other side who's going to step up and grab the game by the scruff of the neck and run forwards and give your team a few crucial wins.
Sloth just trying to find an angle through for the breaching charge to take out this bulletproof camera. I'm not sure he's going to be able to get it.
There we go.
And it comes. He manages to find it. There we go. He's got his man. So Grizzly is now just freed up a little bit, along with Kendrew on these windows, with the potential to go in and think about getting a diffuser down. And it's just still a case of burning utility after utility after utility. But the connector is stacked with a man, and they need to be careful.
It's not him. It's exactly what I was saying 2 minutes ago. It's the man below playing inside a piano with a C4 on side. They try and make this happen. They're going to get stung big time. It's Scyther holding in. C4 comes out. It's stung them again. The planter has been killed by a C4 from below, and there is 0 threat inside a piano.
Well played from Empire once again. Cowana maybe just not applying enough attention to the entire map there to know that that threat was lurking beneath. Sloth is at the top of Yellow Stairs, looks to push himself in. He's all alone now as Grizzly is found by Shepard, taking out the default cameras. His information will have been getting fed to the rest of the Empire team. There's a man gone underneath as well to make his life even more miserable here, and Sloth, he's just trying to find anything. He's juking, he's weaving, he's ducking and diving, but he cannot find a single man, and that is because Empire are playing this smart, Des. They are patient. They know they don't need to push. They know they don't need to peek. They can just wait for the opportunity to come, and it does. And look who it is to take it down. He's been getting kill after kill today.
I'm going to sound like a broken record at this point, but again, Piano, I touched on it previously that it really stung them in previous play days when they were getting C4'd whilst going for the plant, whether it was just inside the window or against the connector wall, they were being stung by it, and it has just got them again. Not once was Scyther threatened inside a Piano, steps across from Anti, gets the freest C4 of his life, and walks away with it for absolute free. Cowana, I don't know if it's this map or if it really transpires across all of them, but it's definitely been most notable here. This team play on attacks at points does seem to be missing a key couple of elements that so far has let Empire not drop a single defensive round. They're at 6-2 at match point as we go into a ground floor defense, and we need to see something special coming out of Cowana here, Ace. Otherwise, I fear that it's lights out, and that, top 4 finish they had last stage begins to feel like more and more of a distant memory that they simply can't achieve once more.
I love what Empire have done here with their site selection, actually, Des. We spoke about it coming in. They've gone through Garage and Console, which, we know that attackers have a little bit more joy, a little bit more success on. And then now that they're at match point, they've already got 2 defensive wins under the belt, and then they take us to press and lobby. That is going to hit Cowana hard, because the defenders have been having an absolute field day on this site so far. And if you want to lock it down anywhere, this is surely going to be it, especially against the Cowana side that are currently just floundering a little bit when it comes to getting in and getting map possession in particular.
I think the one thing I will give was Dan's run out did find a kill onto the player on the south side of the map. I didn't see who it was that he killed, but clearly someone was hanging on the south side, so towards the Piano windows, the front door, for example, just to provide that threat. And once they were gone, it was like, well, great, we know that all 4 players otherwise are on the north and the west rappel, and therefore we can challenge and go for this C4. So maybe that weighed into it as well, but Cowana had to come to expect it. Anyway, enough of me moulding over that round. Let's look more at what's going on in round number 9. Nice and quick in getting the garage opened up. It's kind of been the go-to direct stance for a lot of teams. I always think of BDS when I say that. You get to that wall, you open it up inside 45 seconds, especially when defenders aren't defending inside of the room itself. So no faffing around. Up on the top floor, straight on the ground floor, and maybe looking to have an impact here up yellow, or trying to get themselves out towards Visa. At least they can start on the bottom floor, and Kendrew potentially looking for a frag nade kill too.
Cowana just looking to try and do something differently now. There's an interesting angle for you all at home. If you weren't aware of that one, get yourself up on boxes as the sledge, and you are able to take out that hatch from underneath. One of the few, if not only places in Siege that you're able to use that sledgehammer vertically. But Scyther, he is just holding his angle for the time being. Sloth manages to find a kill onto Shepherd though, so a good start for Cowana here, but it is not the whole picture. There is still going to be a lot of work to do. Scyther just keeping himself alive inside of Antechamber, but steps out a little bit too far and does take a chunk of damage as Kendrew finds Dan. Ooh. Utility raining in. Scyther almost gets away with it, but Sloth said, right, enough's enough from the windows. We're not mucking about with that anymore. Route 1, in I go, and there's the kill.
He must have come in through yellow, straight into bathroom, out into Anti, and just killed the guy sat there, with Empire having basically 0 response. Plant coming in now from Anarchic, and Always and Joystick will scramble to make something happen, but they're not watching the right angles. It feels like the first couple of rounds of the game again, where Cowana have got the right angles and Empire are just unexpectant as to what's going on. A nice shot from Joystick, turns it into the 1 versus 4. Can't see the man on the window. Yes, he can, makes it a second, but he's got so much more to do. Almost had the man's head in the crosshairs, but Kendrew, he hits the shot first, and Cowana catch a well-needed break and take in round number 9.
Well, I don't know what to tell you for Cowana. On the defence, they were able to shut down press and lobby twice, supporting my statistics, but then on the attack, they sort of rip up the rulebook a little bit, and they go in there and they get themselves the win. Not only do they get the win, it's the only site that they've got the win on attackingly, and if anything, it's the one they should have lost. So Cowana just throwing it all out of the window at the minute. 3-6, and they've got a lot of work to do. They can't make any more mistakes now. If Empire get one more round, of course, they will take the match. They'll take the full 3 points, and there'll be no overtime opportunity for Cowana. Heading down to Garage and Cafeteria. This is where they won out last time, Empire. I'm sure they'll carry some confidence in trying to get that locked down. You can see up on the live ranking at the top right of your screen, it's really nice part of this overlay. It keeps the stat guys like me happy when you can see exactly how it's impacting things. But Empire due to go up into 2nd place if they take this win.
They've been looking good. I mean, after the first couple of days where both Empire and Virtus Pro were, for all intents and purposes, absolutely out of it. Couldn't look like they could string together an attack, let alone win a round. And we were all like, man, 0-2. Can they really bounce back and recover? Or are they going to be facing down the barrel of relegations come the end of Stage 3? If this form continues, both teams go on to win. win 2 more games, bring it back to 2-2, and Empire have been unstoppable since. And it was the big question we all wanted to see. Stage 1 was not a good time for them. Coming into Invitationals, Joystick, what was it? Average of 14 kills in each of his group stage games. He was absolutely phenomenal. And the rest of the team then started catching up with him, and Empire started to look like a really serious threat. Unfortunately, couldn't get as far as some other teams. BDS, as we know, was really the last hope coming out for Europe alongside TSM for North America before our LATAM overlords overtook the whole of SI. But for Empire, it's that return to form that we've been dying to see for a long time. It starts to feel like they're getting back to as great as they once were.
An important start from Grizzly there. We saw a great first person of the Twitch drone, just able to take out one of those Kaid electric claws. Of course, he only has 2, so it means there is a guaranteed opening there for Cowana to get this garage wall open quickly.
That was
but
the top
Joystick,
floor again.
I'll bet it is the top floor, manages to get the kill onto Gorgona, and that is the Iana gone, and some nades along with her. It is not a strong start for Cowana.
Nope, we've seen him do that a couple of times over the last few weeks as well. Out the top floor window, loops it down normally onto the player that's playing to the left of the breach at the bottom of the stairs. It's wonderful. Sloth doing exactly what he did last round though, pushing in aggressively, finds one, goes for the default cam, not looking for the man. And Shepard trades it back out. In the previous round, it was that charging through yellow into bathroom, into Anti that helped them out. But here, he's been pulled off pretty comfortably. Kendry playing on the Nook though, keen to see what he can do here and how they intend on using the operator.
Well, they've got the breach open enough at least, so that gives them an opportunity. Just pinging out that Maestro cam there. The Evil Eye could cause a bit of a problem, could cause a nuisance if they try to go in and get the plant. Kendry is on the knock, so he's going to just use that Hell Presence device to just remove his visual signature from any cameras, which will include that Maestro Evil Eye as Kendry goes in to get the diffuser down. Smart play here now then, and Arkick is on the cover, and it's extremely important that he's successful, and he is. Killed going out of the window though. Kendry manages to take one with him, but it's 1 versus 3 now, and Grizzly not necessarily in an ideal position here. He can stop the man if he can get the angle, but I'm not sure he knows exactly where he is. The yellow ping is wrong. He's going to stick it side that wins it, and that just shows that if you get that diffuser down before your post plant is properly set up, it can be a nightmare to try and hold on, and losing both members before getting back out of that garage door was a problem. And I can't help but think that the size of the breach didn't help.
Now, it was a cool and cute little play there as well with the Maestro cam being left alive. It was unusable because we'd seen the Maestro have always died quite early on, but once he starts crawling in there, starts getting the plant down, covered by an Arkick, plays out wonderfully for them, but unfortunately Empire just a little bit too razor sharp today. Cowana missing a few crucial steps in those rounds around map control, I felt, but for the Russians, that march towards victory carries on, moving up into 2nd place. That's what they've been looking for a good while.
They have, and you know what a good performance it was from them. I really thought Cowana were going to put up more of a fight than that. I thought at least it might be a 7-4, 7-5, but nope. On the day, the Russians were extremely good, and I think a lot of other teams are going to be looking at Empire and starting to worry a little bit.
Get excited to see what they could do if the Mexico Major comes around for them, but still got a couple more play days to go to really see if they can lock that in. Embers of Brilliance coming out for Cowana in a couple of rounds, but not enough to make a significant dent in Empire's armor. Let's go over to the desk and get their thoughts on this match.
Thank you very much, Des. Waxing lyricals at the end of the